Welcome on in, golf fans. It's your boy Gsluke here with our DFS fades and sleepers for this week's Genesis Scottish Open. Gonna break down the game theory side of things heading into lock and break down three of the more overhyped and underhyped players that you might want to keep an eye on before lock, whether it's avoiding some of those chalkier overhyped plays or in a case of the sleepers, right? The guys that are being a little bit overlooked that you might want to at least consider for your own lineups. So a lot to get into, a lot to consider here in terms of strategy. Let's go ahead and start it off with our fades of the week. On top of the usual game theory edge that we get with going to some of the lower owned plays in large field GPPs, we've got a little bit of a weather edge to worry about too. So later on for my DFS live stream, I'll be going in full detail into that weather edge, but it does look like the PM AM wave. So the guys that are starting in the second half of the day on Thursday, getting to go off early on Friday, and that's the key there, early on Friday, are going to be the players that you want to target. The winds on Thursday look pretty dicey the entire day. That includes the morning wave. And then over there on Friday, it's next to perfect conditions for the first 4-5 hours of play. So I'm going to be targeting a lot of those PM golfers. And in the case of Tommy Fleetwood here, our first fade, a player that I really wanted to back beginning of the week. In fact, in my Discord, I was telling people that it's Tommy Fleetwood's week to win out there. I just thought it would make too much sense for him to get his first PGA Tour win. I guess I don't know if it's going to technically count as a PGA Tour win, but over there on European soil. So I don't love that I have to fade him, but he's AM wave, and he's one of the few players in the AM wave that I still have as chalk. A lot of the ownership has started to sway towards the PM. That's going to be a whole nother conversation tonight when we go through that edge. But in terms of players that are still holding up in terms of ownership, Tommy Fleetwood would be at the top of the list. He's still 16.5% owned. That's with mega chalky guys like a Ricky Fowler and Terrell Hatton priced just ahead of him. He is still garnering a fair amount of ownership there, which is why I'm so worried about playing him. If you're looking at the form, there's going to be nothing that's throwing you off, right? I mean, he's been really striping it well for the last month. You take a look at the last 2-3 months. He's still been holding up his end of the bargain. You can see here gaining across all four categories. Here last year, he did play, what he finished, T4 last year. Did finish runner-up to Aaron Rye here in 2020, back when it was just a DP World Tour event. So he has that elite course history. Like I said, it's Tommy Ladd over there in European soil. Seems to be able to get the job done there when it comes to PGA wins, or just say just in terms of winning golf tournaments. Not so much over here on the PGA Tour side. So that would be the worry, right? He's $9,400. You're paying a premium for Tommy Fleetwood, both in terms of price and then in the case of this video, right, in terms of that ownership number too. So that's going to keep me off of him. If he was PM wave, honestly, I'd be playing him at this ownership level and this price. But the fact that we've got him in that wave that I think is going to play a little bit more difficult is keeping me off of him. And if you're going to make any decisions against the weather edge, I would make them up here in the 9 and 10K range. So I liked Tommy Fleetwood this week, but I didn't love him, right? It's not like I had to play him. I didn't run out there and bet him as soon as the odds board dropped. But if you are somebody that ran to the window to bet Tommy Fleetwood, you really like him at this sort of golf course, then don't let the weather talk you off of him like it is with me, right? This is just a sort of game theory edge that I'm going for. Pretty much anyone that's chalk in the AM wave, I'm throwing to the side. And that includes a few core plays that I'm talking about before. So like I said, later on during the live stream, I'm going to give you my full thoughts on some of the implications of that edge. But like guys like a Rory Cantlay that I was going to be super heavy on before, I've had to temper my exposure there. In fact, I'm going to have a lot of lineups that are only playing PM wave golfers, which is going to mean that guys like Rory Cantlay are automatically, right, going to go way down in terms of exposure. So I'll still have a few AM guys mixed in, right? Like I said, if you still want to play Fleetwood because he's AM, you can, but you got to be really sold on those players, is I guess what I'm trying to get to there. Next up, we've got ourselves Auberg. He's $8,200. I had him at nearly 18% ownership just actually last night, right, about 12 hours ago. But he's gone down to 11.9%, partly due to the weather wave advantage, and because a few other guys around him are starting to get some steam. You've got Adam Scott, Corey Connors, who are starting to get a little bit popular. You have Justin Rose, even Max Homa, who's starting to get a little bit of attention, a little bit momentum behind him when it comes to the ownership steam. So guys like Alberg have, maybe tempered in terms of ownership, but still 11.9% for me, way too high. You're talking about a player who's in the bad wave once again, right? AM wave tee time, but furthermore has much more of an American style of golf that I think most people realize. I'm sure people see the Swedish flag, right? They know that he's a young golfer, right? Just came out of Texas A&M, but they don't realize that his game is almost completely American, right? All of his tournament experience, all of him grinding, becoming the player that he is today, happened over here on American soil. So to expect him to go over there to Europe and just immediately click here in a link style golf course, I think is crazy talk. So I think he's fairly priced. I think the ownership is starting to get a little bit better, but still at 12% ownership, there are guys around him that I'd much rather play. And in fact, if you're going to take an AM wave golfer, right, I'd rather take a lower owned Justin Thomas, right, who has proven to be a really good wind player, right, has gone out there, shot 6-7 under par rounds in like 30, 35 mile an hour wind gusts. And like I said, one has a track record, one doesn't, and JT's lower owned. So he's not a sleeper play we're going to talk about here in the video. We're going to talk about those two here in a second. But it's those kind of decisions that I would make up here in this 8-9K range if you're going to choose to take somebody out of the bad wave, right? Don't play a chalky player that's like 16 or even in this case 12% owned, because you're allocating 25 to 35% of your lineups to somebody playing in adverse conditions, right? Far from optimal course conditions, which like you can do in small doses, right? But like I said, 25, 35% of your lineups, that's where I draw the line. Before we hop into our last two sleepers, I'll remind you that all of these spreadsheets are on my Patreon page. There's a link down below if you haven't already joined. If you haven't, first off, why haven't you? I would definitely check it out. On there is where you get access to everything I have to offer, from my modeling, projections, Discord server, all the prop and showdown content that I'm posting over the weekend is all in there for the price of $10. So, gotta plug this at some point down there. It's a huge value for guys out there. You're not gonna find a better value for $10. We're getting main slate, showdown, prop stuff, all for the same price of $10. Most of those services, right, are $35, $50, sometimes even $100 to $200 a month. So you're getting crazy value there. All my time, everything obviously helps support the channel and what I'm doing here as well. And like I said, goes a huge way with helping you out with your process. You can copy and paste these into your optimizers, right? Your projected points. You have the ownership numbers you can do the same thing with. All of these different tabs in terms of recent form, event history, shots gained that you guys can use for your research. Just I think the most valuable, the best value out there in the DFS industry, and my baby, something that I work on hard every single week. So make sure to check it out. In terms of our sleeper plays, the guys that are being a little bit under-owned out here, we've got Alex Noren, $7,200. He's got a PM wave tee time, which is what we're looking for, right? The PM guys that are going off early there on Friday with their second round. And he's only 6.3% owned. We've got guys around him that are higher owned, that are in arguably the same, if not worse form, that are sometimes 2-3 times owned. I just don't get it. There are guys like Bjork, who's a DP World Tour player, if you haven't heard of him, has made every single cut this year over there, so has been very consistent, but he shouldn't be 2-3 times the ownership of an Alex Noren, right? Noren's a PGA Tour player. There are levels to golf. I've called the DP World Tour like the triple A's, right, compared to the major leagues over here on the PGA Tour, and that's not so much a diss. I mean, it kind of is, right? I don't think the level of competition is nearly as strong as what you get over here on the PGA Tour, and that has been backed up by a lot of the players that have come over of late, right? We have shots gained now over there on the DP World Tour, and when players come over there from the DP World Tour over here to the PGA Tour, their numbers drop drastically, and they drop immediately, right, when they come over here from the DP World Tour to the American Tour. Now, the strengths over there on the DP World Tour, right, if somebody's a prolific gainer with the putter, well, they're probably still going to be a really damn good putter over here on the PGA Tour, but rather than gaining 2 strokes per round, like you'll see for some players on the DP World Tour, it's usually like 0.75, like 0.8 strokes per round. That's because the level of competition is much higher here. So for guys like an Alex Noren, let's just compare apples to apples, right? 2 Swedish golfers. I believe Bjork's another Swedish guy, right? One of them, they're both PM wave golfers. He should not be 3 times higher owned. Alex Noren's a much better player. I believe to this point of his career, I think Alex Noren might have more DP World Tour wins than Alexander Bjork. Yet Alex, I think the real Swedish guy named Alex that you want to play this week, right, hardly even plays over there. He plays on the PGA Tour like for 90% of his starts. So I don't know. For me, it's an easy pivot, but I can tell you that anyone, and I've seen a lot of content talking about Bjork this week, is tuning this guy up and completely ignoring Alex Noren this week. So if that's going to be the case, you guys know what direction I'm going to go. And it's that kind of mindset I'm using pretty much across the board for my exposure. Our last sleeper play is Romain Langasque. I believe that's how you say his name. It's the best I can do. Not very good with pronunciations, but yeah, Romain Langasque. He's $6,900, PM Wave golfer, 4.2% projected owned. So he's getting some attention, right? That's not completely unowned, right? That's actually a little bit higher than a lot of the guys around him, but I do think that he's worth getting to. He has a ton of experience at this golf course. So, this was a DP World Tour event before it became this combined event last year. It was a par 71 back in the day. It played a different time of year, so sometimes it played even easier, but this guy consistently making the cut. I believe only 1 year ended up missing it over the last 4 years, and has multiple top 10, multiple top 20 finishes. So I like what we're seeing from Romain. He seems to like the golf course. He's popped a few times before, and at this sort of price tag, right? And he's been in decent form over there in the DP World Tour. It's worth noting that too. Making cuts, I've been playing him for props. He's been hitting those on a pretty regular basis for us. And now we get him at $6,900. We really only need top 10 would guarantee him in the optimal. If we got like a top 20, we're probably looking at a good enough performance, right? For some of those large field GPPs. He definitely has that kind of upside. So PM Wave golfer, that's what we're looking for. And there are a lot of other guys in this price tier range that you could throw into that conversation. I'm not just going to play any DP World Tour guy that's in the PM Wave. They've got to be somebody who's in, first off, decent recent form, and second off, I want to see some sort of good experience at this track, right? Like these DP World Tour guys should have played this golf course at least 2-3 times in a lot of cases. I want to see some made cuts, and I want to see some top 10s, some top 20s. And Romain's able to check all of those boxes for me, which is why I'm comfortable talking him up in this sort of video. So, as I talk about in most of my videos, right, there are a lot of different players you could apply this logic to. So if you're going out there trying to research, find a few other sleepers to mix in, right, just try and find players that, first off, PM Wave, I think that's a huge thing to look for here. And then you're looking for players that either have experience on this golf course and have proven it before, or just in good recent form and not getting that steam, right? Not everyone's going to have experience, right? You're going to have some of the younger DP World Tour guys where they just don't have the luxury, right? Having been on tour for 4 or 5 years. If that's the case, right, just try and find the super scorching hot guys. So there are definitely a few that fit that kind of profile too, like Thurston Lawrence, right? Relatively new to the DP World Tour. Romain Langasque, not as many question marks. Definitely worth some exposure in your GPP lineups this week. That's all I've got for the fades and sleepers this week. Before you hop on out of here, go ahead, smash that like button for me. And also, let me know one player that you're fading that might be a little bit chalky this week. And also, go ahead and let me know your sleeper of the week as well. It should be a good one. I love these combined events, whether it's a major championship, obviously Open Championship will have the same kind of feel to it, where we get to see different types of players, maybe guys that we only see right over there on the DP World Tour, and see how they measure up, right? I know I was talking a little bit of smack before, but I have a ton of respect for guys over there, and there are players like Alexander Bork, right, that are going to end up over here on the PGA Tour real soon, and probably going to be a fixture up there in that top 50 to top 70, and probably be on the PGA Tour the rest of their career. So there's a lot of talent over there. I'm excited to see how they go out there, they perform, and perhaps one of them goes out there and wins the golf tournament. Now, I'm not expecting that. I think that would be a little bit of an outlier performance to say the least, but who knows, right? It's why they play 4 rounds. They have 72 holes of golf. Best of luck this week, whether you're playing outrights, whether you're going out there playing PGA DFS. Like I said, live stream tonight will be at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So if you've got any questions, feel free to go ahead, bring them by to that. We're going to go through the weather, some chalk, some lineup construction notes, and of course some props towards the end as well. So looking forward to it. It's my favorite hour of the week. And remind yourselves, lock is tonight, right? It's, I believe, 1:30 or 2 a.m. Eastern time. So make sure you get your lineups in. Don't wait to the last second to do so you're not out there scrambling to get your stuff in. So until then, best of luck, and I'll see you guys at the stream tonight.